From the studio of Blackwater Media in the great city of Atlanta, I'm Dr. William Lester. This time around, we'll explore the world of supernatural evil. But before you jump in with both feet, be warned. The abyss is a dangerous place to investigate. Welcome to Blackwater Media's Demon Files.
I'm being watched. You may pass me off as some madman, but I know I'm being watched by something obviously inhuman. I'm not going to work today. It'll just follow me there. I'm waiting to make some contact with it, to see it, to know I'm not going insane. Maybe I'm just suffering from schizophrenia and this is all in my head, but I'm not taking any chances. At times I hear a loud ringing in my ear. I just hope that I can fall asleep and all this will go away. I know it's real. It's watching me always. I see it in the corners of my eyes. I can hear it growling. I went to a psychiatrist today to tell him what I'd experienced over the last few days, and he thinks I'm suffering from schizophrenia. But he's wrong. They're all wrong. I barricaded myself into my home so I can be alone to study this inhuman entity as much as I please. Hopefully someone will find these letters and find this evil thing and take it away. I'm calling it The Observer. I'm going to write exactly what I see and hear. Hopefully it will just leave me alone. I caught a glimpse of it today, and it is definitely not human. It's about 6'3" and its posture was perfect. It wore a large cloak that looked black, but I didn't see it long enough. Its hands were large and its fingers more like knives. It didn't appear to have feet, just floating over the ground. I haven't seen its face yet, but I bet it's horrifying. It doesn't seem to move that fast, so maybe I could sneak up on it and attack it. I'm going to do some research and try to find anything I can about this. It forever growls, and I can't sleep at night in fear that it'll get me. My research was useless. Nothing is known about the Observer, at least not yet. My house is in complete darkness now. I've switched off all the lights, and I carry a flashlight around in better hope that it'll come out. I've seen glimpses, but still it keeps its face hidden. Maybe it's for the better. Maybe once I see its face, it goes into a rampage and kills me on sight. I'm taking my chances. I must see its face. I'm going to try to sleep tonight. I'm so tired. I managed to sleep last night to my relief, but what I woke up to was horrifying. While I was asleep, the Observer left a large cut all down my arm and wrote a message on the ceiling in my own blood. It said, "Forever watching." The writing was messy, but could clearly be understood. It's out to get me. This I now know. I can hear it everywhere, feel it breathing down my neck, although there's nothing there. It plays tricks with me. It wants to mess with my head before brutally murdering me. It's nightmare fuel, something from the depths of hell. I'm going to see its face no matter what. It may hold the key to what this thing truly is. I saw its face. I fell asleep while writing last night. When I woke up, it was in my hallway. It turned the light on and was staring right at me. It had a large cloak on that was ripped at the bottom. Like I said before, it has no feet and seems to hover. Its hands were claws, each one about 50 centimeters long, thick and sharp, almost like knives. Then I saw its face. It had a hood over its head, but its face was clearly visible. Its eyes were just empty sockets, black, and they never seemed to end. It had no nose, and then there's the mouth. It was in a circle shape, pitch black, It had no teeth, and there was a kind of smoke coming from it, also black. You couldn't see through it. Its skin color was a dark gray. It was horrible. My first instinct was to throw my lamp at it, so I did. It simply hit the observer and smashed. It didn't even stumble. I think it's immortal. With that, it fled the room with incredible speed. I fear for my life now. I've called the police. They said they're going to be about an hour. I hope they don't take that long. It could strike at any time. I'm locking myself in my closet. I just hope the thing can't read. Shortly after finding this diary, the police searched his house thoroughly. About 5 minutes into their search, they found his corpse in an empty closet. Large claw marks were all over his body, and there was a bite mark where his heart was. Many of his organs were ripped from his body, and his eyes had been gouged out. We now know that the observer is out there, feasting on innocent people. We advise you that if you hear loud growling or a high-pitched buzz or see a dark figure in the corner of your eye, that you contact your local authorities immediately. We have found no photographic evidence of its existence, but we will take its rough appearance from the description that Tom gave in his diary. This thing could be anywhere. A woman in Texas bought a real haunted zombie voodoo doll on eBay in 2004. She thought it was just for display purposes. She took it out of the small coffin and displayed it. It was, she said later on, a real big mistake. The doll attacked her many times. She had cuts, bruises, and had been gashed open on her leg. After being attacked and knowing the doll was haunted, without a second thought, she left it on display. One evening, she was in her bedroom reading a book when she heard a tapping noise coming from the downstairs area. She was curious to find what was causing the noise. She opened the door, only to find the voodoo doll on the floor. This continued for several weeks. She would hear a tapping noise and find the doll on the ground. One night, she went to her porch and felt a stinging. She looked down and saw 3 claw marks on her ankle. Every night she was scratched, bit, and her leg was so gashed up that she had to go to the hospital. She put the doll back in its little coffin and shoved it into the basement, praying it would stay away from her. For weeks, she heard evil laughs and giggles, but she wouldn't dare open the basement door. The doll couldn't physically attack her, but it began to haunt her in her dreams. She tried to burn the doll, but it wouldn't work. She tried to cut it up, but the scissors broke as well as the knife she used. So she buried it in the cemetery. But it was too shallow, and it appeared all dirty on her doorstep. She resold it on eBay, and the buyer said it disappeared from her home. The woman found the doll on her doorstep, and she had to send it back to the buyer. The buyer complained that it disappeared again. So when the woman found it on her doorstep again, she wrapped it up securely and then sent it back once again. After that, the buyer said the box was empty. Then the woman found the doll at her door again. 2 years later, the woman was finally able to get rid of the doll. She had a priest bless the doll, which made it calm down. Right now, the doll is blessed in its coffin and kept away in the basement. She was told to never remove it from that box again.
My family and I live on a farm in the middle of nowhere. When I say middle of nowhere, I mean it, literally. There are no signs of civilization for miles around. Me and my wife, Catherine, wanted a safe place to raise our son. We'd previously lived in a major city where crime was extremely prominent. Hell, we'd hear gunshots at least once or twice a week, though this was nothing new to us. We'd lived there our entire lives. Needless to say, we knew we couldn't raise our child in this environment. My wife wanted our child to have a real childhood, and I couldn't have agreed more. 3 months before our son Bobby was born, we started looking for somewhere new to call home. Somewhere quiet and far away from people. It's not that we were introverts or anything like that. We simply didn't trust people enough after living in that city for so long. What we needed was a fresh start. One night, my wife had called me into the kitchen. She explained how she'd found the perfect place. It was a beautiful 200-acre farm with a large patch of woods surrounding the property line. The picture showed an old 2-story house with paint chipping off the sides. The barn was adjacent to the house. It had a silo connected to the side with vines growing up it. The shingles on the roof were extremely worn and had moss growing under them. "It's gorgeous," I said, glancing at the price. "But that price is a bit sketchy, don't you think so? Almost seems too good to be true." My wife looked up at me, her smile fading ever so slightly, and she said, "I mean, yeah, but we have to at least check it out. If it's legit, it'd be perfect." Seeing her eagerness, and after pondering for a moment, I figured it couldn't hurt to go check it out, if for no other reason, just to make her happy. So next day we made the 2-hour trip out to the property. Glancing at my wife, I could tell she was very eager to see the place. And I'll admit her excitement rubbed off on me a bit as I found myself driving faster. We pulled into the long dirt driveway and parked next to the barn. "Hi there, you must be Joseph," the real estate lady said enthusiastically. "Yeah, nice to meet you." I started shaking her hand. I looked over to my wife, who was already at the door of the house. "That's my wife, Catherine. She's very excited to see the place." We made our way over to Catherine and walked in. And right off the bat, I felt something unexplainable. If I could explain this feeling, I would, but I simply can't. My wife and the real estate lady seem to be unaffected by it. The front door opens into a dining room area, which also happens to be connected to the tiny stain-covered kitchen. The countertops had a yellow tint to them, as if they were extremely old. The floor had loose floorboards that creaked with each step. We made our way to the bathroom on the main floor, and just like the kitchen, the bathroom was incredibly small and had signs of wear and tear. There was a horrible stench in the air, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. Catherine had her nose scrunched up, indicating she could smell it too. "I'm still not sure where the smell is coming from. But if you buy the place, I could recommend you a good plumber," the lady said, pinching her nose and motioning for us to follow her. She showed us the living room as well as the upstairs bedrooms. Despite the mess in the kitchen and bathroom, the rest of the house seemed to be in decent condition. The 4 bedrooms were a big plus, as I needed a room to work in. I work in data entry and usually work from home, and having a quiet room to myself would be perfect for getting work done. There was just one spot she hadn't shown us yet. The basement. "This place is the basement, right?" I said curiously. She gripped her clipboard harder and frowned a bit, as if startled by the question. Yeah, sure does. It's through that door there." She pointed at the door right next to the bathroom. I waited a few seconds for her to lead us down there. Eventually, I realized she clearly didn't want to go down first. Stupidly, I blew it off and made my way to the door. The hinges creaked, and the black abyss was revealed. I pulled the cord dangling in front of us, turning on the lights. The stairs were too steep for my wife to go down, given she was 6 months pregnant. Against my better judgment, I made my way down the steps. That feeling I mentioned earlier, It was so much worse down here. This time, however, I felt absolute terror in the pit of my stomach. The basement had concrete flooring and walls. Pipes covered the ceiling along with cobwebs. It had that typical basement smell of mildew and old water. The air felt heavy, making it almost hard to breathe. When I got back upstairs, I overheard Catherine asking when we could move in. Catherine, we need to talk about this before we make any decisions," I said quickly. "Well, what is there to talk about? It's absolutely perfect. Not to mention in our price range." I could tell she'd already made up her mind, but I wasn't having it. Something was extremely wrong with the place, and I'm not just talking about the lack of structural integrity, but nonetheless I knew she was dead set on this. "Joseph, we need a home before Bobby comes into the world. This is the perfect place. We'll have plenty of room to grow. Just trust me, please," she said with pleading eyes. It was difficult to argue with her. "We'll take it," I said reluctantly. We filled out the paperwork and got things in order. "I think you two will just love this place. It has a lot of character," the real estate agent said. I almost laughed, but I didn't want to come off as rude. We went home and talked with our bank as well as our landlord at the time in order to make arrangements for the move. We officially moved in about a week later, although there wasn't much to actually move, mostly furniture and personal belongings. The first day was spent cleaning and arranging the furniture around. The place was a mess when we got there, but after a lot of hard work, we got it looking halfway decent. Now fast forward to later that night. We both had just settled into bed. My wife went through her nightly routine of putting lotion on her stomach while humming to our unborn child. This eased my mind about the decision to move here. Seeing my wife happy made it all worth it. However, this didn't last long. We'd finally fallen asleep. Getting used to sleeping in a new house was difficult. The house would constantly creak and groan. Mind you, it had to be well over 80 years old. The noises kept me up for most of the night. My wife, on the other hand, seemed to have no problem settling into our new home. After about a week, we started noticing strange noises around the house, primarily at night. And now this alone wouldn't normally freak me out. As I said before, the house was constantly settling and creaking, making various noises. But these new noises we were hearing couldn't possibly be made by the house. Footsteps, whispers, door slamming, to list just a few. Each time these noises occurred, I'd be the one to go investigate. However, my efforts were fruitless. There would never be any sign of anyone or anything in the house. My wife never seemed worried in the slightest. I'd always admired how brave and independent she was. On July 5th, our beautiful baby boy was born. We'd been waiting in anticipation to meet our child for months. I'll never forget the overwhelming joy I had holding him in my arms for the first time. We checked out of the hospital and brought him home at around 11 p.m. My wife settled in, holding our bundle of joy in her arms. As tired as we both were, we just couldn't seem to sleep out of sheer excitement. I laid down by Catherine and Bobby, wrapping my arm around them. We both must have fallen asleep at some point, because we both woke up to a blood-curdling scream. I couldn't pinpoint exactly where it came from, but it sounded muffled, leading me to believe it came from downstairs. "What the hell is that?" Catherine said, her face pale with fear. I slowly got up and reached for my pistol in the drawer. I've never been a big fan of guns. However, I always kept one just in case of an intruder. "I'll be right back. Stay here with Bobby." I made my way to the hallway, being extra quiet so as not to alert a possible intruder. Whatever the noise was had now stopped. I checked all the rooms upstairs, finding nothing whatsoever. The living room, kitchen, and bathroom were empty as well. Not a person in sight. I was about to make my way back upstairs when I walked past the basement door, and chills ran down my spine as I realized I'd have to go check down there too. Hesitating to open the door, I stopped myself. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a basement. I can do this. My thoughts went silent when I noticed the doorknob slowly turning. I completely froze, now absolutely terrified. The door creaked open, revealing a dark, cold basement. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get myself to move. Gazing into the black abyss, I noticed something. 2 glowing red dots levitating about 7 feet in the air. My heart dropped even further into my chest, terrified of what was before me. I stood there watching when out of nowhere, the dots blinked. Suddenly I gained all of my motor functions once again and slammed the door, bolting upstairs to the bedroom. Catherine was startled by me running into the bedroom and slamming the door. "What's wrong? Is someone in the house?" she asked, fear in her tone. "I'm not sure, but we have to leave now." My mind continued racing as I started packing my things, and Catherine interjected. "You aren't making any sense, Joseph. What did you see?" The fact she was questioning me made me upset, but that anger was quickly diminished by the gut-wrenching fear coursing through me. I was about to speak up when the light on our nightstand turned off. We were in complete and utter darkness. I froze just like I had in the basement doorway. "Joseph, what's going on?" Catherine asked, holding tight onto Bobby. I was about to say something when I noticed it. Those glowing red eyes, looking right back at me from where my wife was sitting. "Catherine?" I whimpered out.
"Catherine is gone, Joseph. Would you like to join her?"
I once worked as a forensic nurse in a hospital's lockup unit. We had one young lady who swore she was being haunted and abused by a demon she would call Tiberius. So many crazy things happened while she was on the unit. We go into the room, do normal care, leave, and seconds later, she'd start screaming bloody murder. We'd run into the room to find her looking like she'd been in a fight with a boxing champion. Bloody lips, black eye, markings all over her body. No one ever saw her doing these things to herself now. Things would get moved around the room seemingly by themselves. At one point, she was in protective restraints because the doctor thought she was hurting herself. I mean, there was no way she could have moved or done anything to herself while in those restraints. It just wouldn't have been physically possible. But new marks would always appear on her. Something else. Her tray or cart would be across the room, sometimes like it had been thrown or tossed and scattered onto the floor. The room was secure, so there was no way someone else was doing this. When we asked her questions, she would just say, "It was Tiberius." Sometimes we could detect terrible odors. I mean, worse than an open sewer or dead animal carcasses rotting in the sun. After she was discharged, we always had trouble with that goddamn room. If there was going to be a rapid response or code, it happened in that room. One night, a security guard reported lights blinking on and off, and something like the sound of a large animal growling. And it only happened in that room.
religious rites become obscene orgies. In Count Dracula and his vampire bride, the king of the undead marries the queen of the zombies. Who are the living and who are the dead? As the two masters of menace struggle, Count Dracula and his vampire bride, rated R.
For those of you who have never given any thought to the paranormal or the supernatural, perhaps hearing about what happened to me might give you pause. It might even make you reconsider. You see, at least 3 or 4 nights a week, I'm awakened by something strange. I've always been very sensitive when I sleep. Like, I can tell when people or animals are watching me. Well, when I woke up, something was watching me sleep. I should add here that when I awaken, I feel almost blanketed by a terrible sense of fear and dread. Now, the only sound in the room is the ticking of the clock on my nightstand. But this thing, that's what I call it. It's about 2 feet tall, has 2 horns on its head, dark, leathery skin that looks partially burned, pointy ears, and glowing, menacing eyes. It also has 2 rows of huge needle-like teeth. It puts off the worst odor imaginable. It just sits there in the corner and stares at me. I get a chill down my entire body, and I get so damn scared and freaked out. It seems to show up after 3 a.m., but never after the first light of dawn. You know, I brought it up to my brother, and he asked me to draw a picture of it. And when I showed it to him, he said that he'd seen it before when he was younger. He saw it in the house that we grew up in. That was a shock, to say the least, because he'd never mentioned it before, at least not to me. My girlfriend said that the drawing looked very familiar to her as well. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm too scared to fall asleep. I am aware that certain members of my family have been known to notice, let's just say, unnatural things. Things that would terrify people to death. But this thing, it never really moves. It never speaks. I have no idea why it comes or what it wants. It only does one thing. It watches me. Many years ago, I had a series of paranormal experiences, after which I can honestly say that supernatural evil is real. In 1983, I was 11 years old and went to spend a week with my first cousins. It was really hot that summer, and the coolest place in the house was downstairs in the semi-finished basement, where we also slept. Now, everything was great until one day my aunt went grocery shopping, and we stayed home and played in the basement. A couple of hours later, we heard the heavy front door open and my aunt and cousin Jen walking up the stairs. Well, you know, boys being boys, we were excited to see what my aunt had brought back for us, and we ran up the stairs all excited. When we got to the living room, the front door was wide open and the back door was open, but no Aunt Joy or Jen. I thought it was weird, but nothing really scary. Now, my cousins seemed very concerned, and they started whispering back and forth and seemed scared. Tad and Jim both decided that we should play outside until my aunt returned home. A little later, When she got there, Tad and Jim ran into the house before me to tell my aunt what happened. Tad, being the oldest, told her. "It happened again, Mom," to which she replied, "Oh, Lord, son, we don't need this now." Then she looked over at me and then back to Tad and shook her head as if to say, "Don't say anything else about it." Naturally, this got me curious, and the more I asked what this was all about, the more annoyed and angry he became. Neither he nor Jim would tell me anything. Anyway, the next day or so went along normally, and we were having a great time, enjoying summer and playing. And then one night I saw it. Jim and I were sleeping on a mattress on the floor when something made me jerk awake. I looked over by the corner of the room, and I saw what I thought was Jen just standing and being silent. I asked her what she was doing there and got no answer from her. Being tired, I paid no mind and quickly fell back asleep. In the morning at the breakfast table, I asked Jen why she was downstairs last night, and she gave me a puzzled expression and said that she never got out of bed, which was upstairs. My aunt questioned me and wanted to know if it said anything or touched me. And I told her no and asked why. She said, "Well, you must have had a bad dream." I told her no, I wasn't dreaming, and she got kind of short and said my imagination was playing tricks on me. Now keep in mind, to me, she was making a big deal out of nothing, but I realized that something was very wrong, and I was getting a little worried. My cousins acted very strange about the whole thing, which worried me even more. The day went on as normal, and that evening my aunt decided that we would sleep on a foam mattress in the living room. And again, I woke up in the middle of the night and I sensed something was wrong. I mean, really wrong. I looked up at the head of the mattress and saw what looked like my aunt laying with her head propped up by her arm. I spoke to her, asking if everything was okay, and she said nothing. I sat up and started asking what was wrong, and still nothing. And then I noticed her eyes were blacked out, and that really wasn't my aunt at all. I shook Jim trying to wake him up, but he wouldn't move. I remember that I really started crying and shouting for Jim to wake up. Then this demonic thing screamed loudly and got up and ran or flew into the hallway. It was horrible. It was a black, shadowy thing, and it left a terrible odor that's almost beyond description. My aunt and everyone came in screaming and asking what happened, and I told her that it ran right past you. Jim jumped up and ran to my aunt, who was crying. My aunt loaded us up and drove me home. I don't remember much after Mom and Dad hugging me and making me feel better. I found myself just not wanting to talk about it in the days following and put it in the back of my mind. About a month later, I woke up late at night and my aunt and my cousins were in the kitchen. They all seemed upset. It happened again, only it got worse this time. My aunt was bleeding from her nose, and her face was all red and swollen, and my cousins wouldn't even speak. They stayed the rest of the night, and I moved in with Grandma and Grandpa the next day. Years later, my cousin Jim and I reunited, and after a while, I asked what really happened, and all he would say was, "It was bad. I really don't want to talk about it." So I let it be. Now, my dad and I still talk about it, and he, being a tough war vet, says, "There's a lot of bad things in this world, and we probably don't want to know what a lot of them are." I think this was good advice. My aunt and cousins never went back. They even hired someone to retrieve their belongings. The house changed hands 4 times in 2 years. No one living there stayed more than 3 months. It still stands in a state of disrepair. It's been empty since 1985. I don't think anyone will ever live there again. That's the trouble with demons. One Saturday night, back when I was in high school, some of my friends and I decided to go out. Nothing unusual, right? Well, one of my friends needed a ride, so I went to his house to pick him up. He asked me to come in because his mother wanted to meet me. You see, he told his mother that I'm also Mexican-American and love La Virgen de Guadalupe, the Virgin Mary, and had a small altar to her in my home. While I was there, his mother asked if I wanted to see their altar, and of course, I said yes. She led me to a small bedroom, which looked like it was a little girl's room, or had been, but it was full, and I do mean full of candles, statues, pictures of Jesus, Mary, and many Catholic saints. There were rosaries, crosses, crucifixes, roses, and every kind of item that a Mexican-American Catholic would have. I was surprised, and although I thought it was amazing and beautiful, I had an uncomfortable feeling. My friend's mother asked me if I knew about my friend's little sister, and I didn't. She told me that it was her room. She passed away when she was 10 due to leukemia. My friend had never told me about this, and I assumed it was because it was just too hard to talk about, understandably. After we left, I told my friend how sorry I was to hear about his little sister. He only said thank you, and we didn't speak further about it until about a year later. One night I was talking to him on the phone about a strange paranormal experience I had that really scared me. He told me he understood and asked if he could tell me more about his little sister. He told me how his family found out about his sister having leukemia, and how when the time came, they felt it was best if she passed at home in her own bed surrounded by her family. The last few nights of her life were of course very difficult for his family, but one night was far worse. It was late in the evening, but not completely dark yet, and they heard someone playing a fiddle in the backyard just outside of his sister's bedroom window. The song being played was not a very fast song, but a somewhat happy-sounding song. The family didn't really pay much attention to it until they also heard someone singing along with it. And whoever was singing was also saying the name of the little girl who was dying. And I'm sure you'll understand why I prefer not to include her name in this story. My friend was the first to look out the window, and he told me what he saw looked like the stereotypical devil with goat legs, horns, and a tail. It was about 4 feet tall and was leaning against the fence in a casual way. It was smiling, singing, and playing the fiddle happily. Of course, when he saw this, he didn't know what to do, but he felt like he had to act quickly. He called his father over to show him. As they watched, they realized what the creature was singing. It was saying something like, "I'm so happy to be taking this little girl with me tonight. Come with me. Come with me." And would include her name over and over. It would even dance a little from time to time. At first, my friend's father wanted to shield the family and act like it was just a neighbor playing loud music. But the creature began to sing and play louder until the whole family could hear what it was saying. They were horrified, but somehow knew that their best option was to ignore it, to not give it any attention, to not allow it to scare them or give them doubts. They knew if they called the police wouldn't believe them. And what could the police do anyway? They believed that this creature, or demon, was there to distract them, to trick them, and to make them lose their faith. The demon continued to sing, and the family continued to pray and be with the little girl. The family felt the best way to fight the demon was with prayer and love. And she did pass away that night, and the demon stopped singing when she passed. My friend told me that it was the greatest test of faith he'd ever lived through. He knows the demon did not succeed in taking his sister and has faith that love conquers all. As I listened to this story, I was shocked and horrified. But more importantly, I was amazed at his family's wisdom, strength, and faith. I greatly appreciated that he felt safe telling me this story because it gave me hope. Hope that good can overcome evil.
after the Lutz family moved into their dream house. They were running for their lives. What happened to them is an experience in terror you will never forget. And you will believe in the Amityville Horror. Rated R.
Now playing at a theater or drive-in near you.
You're listening to the Blackwater Media Radio Network, the finest in digital audio entertainment. This is Blackwater Media coming to you from the great city of Atlanta. I've always felt the presence of spirits. They often come to me as a dreamlike vision while I'm just about to drift off to sleep. In my youth, I got flashes of scary, gory, horrifying imagery. Then I would feel a presence. I learned to communicate with mental imagery and found if I allowed the spirits to pass through me, they could finally rest. It's been many years since I've tried to communicate. In the last 4 or so years, I've had a new experience with visions of a flash of a dead, decapitated, bloody body in a car wreck. I started feeling a very heavy negative energy around me at home, like I'm being watched. It's strongest just before bed. This entity isn't interested in communicating or trying to get my attention to pass on. It feels content to stay and lurk around me in my bedroom. One night a vision came to me unlike any other. A goat head with horns and a woman's chest with goat legs. After some research, I discovered that this was Baphomet. This was an image I'd seen before, but it scared me so damn much I put it out of my mind. Eventually I performed a sage rubbing, read the 23rd Psalm aloud. I lit a white candle, fanned the smoke, and made ash crosses above the doors. I tried imagery of me cutting the head off this beast with a sword. Since then, I've gotten a new vision. A 3-horned, bull-headed man's upper body and lower legs like a hooved animal. Visions of a cliff with gray, naked bodies holding onto each other, pulling each other down. I feel worried, scared, nervous. This entity won't leave, and I'm horrified. I don't know where to turn. If there's anyone out there with any answers or a solution, I'm begging you to reach out. Late one night, my insomnia got the better of me, and after hours of tossing and turning, I gave up and went downstairs to make coffee. My dog decided she would take this rare opportunity to go for a late night walk, and I thought since it was a cool evening, maybe it would do us both good. I decided to take our usual route since it was very dark and we both knew the neighborhood well. Things were not right almost from the start. As soon as we hit the next block, Bella, my dog, seemed very unsettled. Now, I just wrote it up to the dark and time of our walk, although we have walked many times at this hour over the years for some reason or other. She kept looking behind us and rushing along. Not at all her usual MO. Usually she just strolls slowly and carefully because of her advanced age. Now, I wasn't concerned at first because for years I've carried a .45 sidearm and the entire neighborhood knew it. Now, we got to our first right at the stop sign and I thought while she did her thing on the fire hydrant, I'd light a cigarette. The street light went dim and then out. And I thought, okay, shit, that was weird. But we kept walking. Every street light we walked under dimmed and went out, or almost. I started feeling the hair on the back of my neck stand up and hearing noises on the opposite side of the street too. Maybe cats or skunks. That's what I told myself. Halfway home, I looked at my phone and it was 3 a.m. Great. I put my phone back in my pocket and rubbed my St. Benedict medal for comfort. I was really working myself up. Now that's when the shit happened. Bella spun, ran in front of me, and the hackles and ears fully up started growling like I have never heard her do. She was baring her teeth and acting very aggressive at essentially nothing, at least that I could see. She then let loose of her bladder and spun and took off as fast as a 15-year-old dog can. Now I was really freaked the hell out. I dropped the leash and started after her. Now that's when every dog in the goddamn neighborhood started howling. Bella was not barking or even in sight, but dogs were baying and howling. And while I was chasing after her, maybe it was just my imagination or something, I don't know. But for whatever reason, I became very aware of the blessed medal I had around my neck. Now check it out. I was walking in the direction that Bella went, and I was saying to myself that at her age, how far could she go? Now, feeling like I was being watched, I found her a block and a half away in a yard no dog goes in because the owners treat their lawn with that anti-canine treatment shit. And she was sitting in front of a statue of Mary. I said to myself, this walk is over. I called my wife to come and get us, and when dialing the phone, did not miss the fact that although 10 minutes had elapsed, my phone still read 3 a.m. Now, of course, my wife showed up very pissed off until I got in the car with Bella, who was shaking so much you would have thought it to be 40 degrees instead of 65. And I was white as a sheet. She told me on the ride over, she saw a black shape dart behind a tree, only it wasn't there when she drove by. And she said to me, "It's a good thing you brought your gun." But I, on the other hand, knew it was a different kind of protection and of a different nature that had saved us. After that, my wife asked me why I got a St. Michael medal for Bella's collar. I said, it can't hurt. I know that night we were stalked by real evil, and I'd rather the whys and what remain a mystery. But what I do know for damn sure, I don't ever want to go through something like that again.
Nobody expected it. Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it. The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist. Rated R.
The movie you've been waiting for. Without the wait.
On the night of February 8th, 1855, Devon, England became the center of one of the most perplexing and eerie mysteries ever recorded, the infamous Devil's Footprints. After a night of heavy snowfall, the following morning revealed something truly bizarre. A trail of hoof-like prints that seemingly stretched over 40 to 100 miles, zigzagging across the Devon countryside. What made these prints so unsettling was their unbroken, straight-line pattern, as if made by a creature walking on two legs, leaving behind cloven hoof marks reminiscent of the devil himself. The footprints were not confined to the ground. They appeared on rooftops, crossing rivers, high walls, and haystacks without any disturbance to these obstacles. This particular ability to traverse any terrain led many locals to believe that only something supernatural could have caused such an enigmatic phenomenon. Religious leaders of the time even warned that these tracks might be the work of Satan, stirring fear throughout Devon. What exactly made these tracks, though, remains a mystery even today. Numerous theories have been proposed over the years, ranging from the plausible to the absurd. One of the more entertaining explanations was that an escaped kangaroo from a nearby menagerie had left the marks. While it certainly added a bit of levity to the growing hysteria, there was no evidence to support the kangaroo theory. Others believed it could have been a hoax orchestrated by pranksters, as the phenomenon occurred in multiple areas, with some suggesting that local churchgoers made their own marks to fuel the supernatural rumors. Natural explanations also emerged, with some attributing the marks to animals such as badgers or even hopping mice. These theories, however, failed to account for the straight-line nature of the prints, or how they appeared on rooftops and across rivers. The idea of a balloon dragging ropes across the snow was also floated, pun intended, but this explanation was met with skepticism, as it seemed far too convenient, given the lack of substantial evidence. Despite all the speculation, the Devil's Footprints captured public imagination, and to this day, they remain one of the most curious and unsettling unexplained mysteries of Victorian England. In fact, similar footprints were reported as recently as 2009 in Exmouth, not far from the original sightings, leading many to wonder whether Devon is haunted by some diabolical creature that roams the countryside. What truly makes this story so chilling is its endurance. Despite modern attempts to solve the mystery, no single explanation can fully account for the breadth and nature of the prints. Whether the work of a supernatural force or an elaborate hoax, the Devil's Footprints continue to inspire both fear and fascination. Would you have dared to step outside that snowy morning in 1855, knowing that something or someone had been roaming your town, leaving such mysterious traces behind? The legend of the Devil's Footprints is a reminder that not all mysteries can be solved, and perhaps some are best left unexplained. Special thanks to author Lee Brickley, whose books on the paranormal can be found at Amazon.com. This incident, which I'd like to share with you, happened when I was about 15. I hope that after you hear and understand what happened to me, that you never, ever consider using a Ouija board. And if you have used one, don't ever use it again. At the time, several strange things were happening, which I believe had to do with a seance my friend and I put on. We were using a homemade Ouija board made from a piece of scrap plywood, those big stinky magic markers, and a glass from the kitchen for a planchette. Nothing much exciting happened during the seance, and to be honest, I thought my friend was pushing the glass and never thought much of it. That is, until I began waking up at 3:15 a.m. every morning with a genuine sensation of total terror. I would lie awake in my bed with the covers over my head as I had a strange sensation of being watched and was afraid of what was in the room with me. I would lie there until the sun came up. I was always terrified of looking in a certain direction, and upon inspection, I found the glass which had been used in the damn seance. This took me by surprise, as the glass had been disposed of, so I was certain that the glass was the reason for my sleepless nights. I got rid of the glass again. However, I kept experiencing the same feelings, and once again, upon inspection, came across the same glass that I'd already thrown in the garbage twice. What the fuck was going on with this damn glass? This time I was determined to get rid of it, so I took it outside and smashed it on the ground. I continued waking at 3:15 a.m. to the minute every morning without fail, and I started seeing strange, dark shadows.
The shadows started as perfect black balls which would circle my room, then seemed to disappear through my window. Now, believe it or not, I put this off to paranoia and lack of sleep and simply tried to ignore it and went back to sleep, still with my head under the covers, of course. Then other people started noticing the shadow too, and I mean during the daytime. They would tell me towards the end of the house where my room was seemed a bit creepy. Gradually, the shadows seemed to get bigger, but I continued to ignore them. Until one night, the family dog woke me up again, 3:15 a.m. He was sitting next to my bed and he was making a crying sound. I figured the dog needed to go out, so I got up and let him outside. As soon as I was back in bed, the dog was at my window, squeaking and carrying on, so I got back up and let him back inside. The dog followed me to my room and once again sat by my bed whimpering. Then I took him back outside, and even though he sat at my window still crying, I made him stay out there for a bit because I didn't want him coming back in and waking me up. Now, I eventually gave in and let the dog back inside. The bathroom light was on, letting light flood the hallway as I walked back to my room, where the dog started growling. I moved closer to the bathroom door so the dog could see it was me, as I was worried he was growling at my shadow. I called him up to me and he was still growling, and I said, "Hey, it's only me. Come here. What's the matter?" The dog walked slowly towards me, still growling, and sat next to my leg, growling at something that he perceived to be behind me. In that moment, my thoughts turned to, "Oh shit, there's somebody in the house." And I turned around and started running down the hallway. What I saw has never left my mind, and something no one has ever believed when I've told them. I saw what seemed to be like a huge bird. It had huge outstretched wings that would have touched the roof and almost to the floor. Its body ended where the wings did, and neither seemed to touch the floor. As it followed me down the hallway, the wings stayed outstretched and it seemed to glide as it moved. I did notice a small head between the wings, but no features that I can recall, and the head seemed hooded rather than round and connected to the body without a neck. To me, the creature seemed more shadow-like than of flesh. I tried to momentarily bullshit myself and attribute it to my own shadow, but it wasn't. It was real. I remember mostly the wings and the enormity of them as they towered over me and how it moved as it followed after me until it slipped into another room. I'm not sure what happened to it after that, but my sister, who was older and didn't believe in anything paranormal, had some scary experiences involving a black shadow that would terrorize her at night. Let me bottom line this for you. There are evil, malicious spirits that will absolutely exploit human arrogance and stupidity. Never try to conjure spirits. It won't go well for you. And I don't give a shit what anybody tells you about surrounding yourself with white light, burning sage, salt on the floor, whatever. That's all paranormal TV show, psychic fair bullshit. Demons operate on a whole nother level. Think about that before you sit down and try to use a Ouija board. In the heart of Utah's rugged terrain lies Emery County, a region steeped in history and folklore. Among its many tales, one stands out: the legend of the Demon of Emery County. This enigmatic entity has both intrigued and unsettled locals and visitors alike, weaving a narrative that blurs the lines between reality and the supernatural.
Emery County, established in 1880 and named after Territorial Governor George W. Emery, is characterized by its vast landscapes, including the San Rafael Swell and numerous ghost towns that whisper stories of the past. The legend of the demon of Emery County is not as widely documented as other regional myths, such as the Bear Lake Monster or tales of skinwalkers. However, local lore speaks of a malevolent presence that has haunted the area for generations. Descriptions of the demon vary, but common threads include a shadowy figure with piercing eyes that instills an overwhelming sense of dread in those who encounter it. Some accounts suggest it is a restless spirit from the county's early settler days, while others believe it to be a manifestation of the hardships and tragedies that befell the region's inhabitants. Emery County's history is marked by the rise and fall of mining towns, with several now standing as ghost towns, silent monuments to a bygone era. These abandoned settlements, such as Moreland and Victor, contribute to the eerie atmosphere that pervades the area. It's within these desolate locales that sightings of the demon are most frequently reported. Witnesses often recount unexplained phenomena, disembodied whispers, sudden drops in temperature, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Skeptics might attribute these experiences to the natural sounds and sensations of deserted places. But for those who have felt the demon's presence, the fear is undeniably real. The landscape of Emery County itself seems to play a role in the legend. The San Rafael Swell, with its labyrinthine canyons and rugged terrain, has long been a place of mystery. Native American tribes, such as the Fremont people, left behind petroglyphs and pictographs in areas like Buckhorn Wash and Temple Mountain Wash, hinting at a deep spiritual connection to the land. Some speculate that the demon could be linked to these ancient cultures, perhaps as a guardian spirit or a manifestation of past rituals. While concrete evidence of the demon's existence remains elusive, the legend persists, passed down through generations as a cautionary tale or a topic of hushed conversation around campfires. Whether a product of overactive imaginations, a psychological response to the isolation of the area, or something more sinister, the demon of Emery County continues to captivate those who hear its story. For paranormal enthusiasts and investigators, Emery County offers a compelling destination. The combination of historical intrigue, abandoned settlements, and the pervasive legend of the demon creates an environment ripe for exploration. However, it's essential to approach such investigations with respect for the local communities and the histories they cherish. In the end, the demon of Emery County serves as a reminder of the power of folklore and the human tendency to seek explanations for the unknown. Whether the demon is a literal entity or a symbolic representation of the region's tumultuous past, its legend adds a rich layer to the tapestry of Emery County's cultural heritage. As with all tales of the supernatural, the truth may lie somewhere between the shadows and the light, waiting for those brave enough to seek it out.